Marley from the Energy Boutique with your energy forecast for Monday, October 10th. So today we will have the moon in Aries, again, still very much in the full moon window, shift out of this Arian energy and lock into Taurus energy. So just keep in mind that the full moon is still really providing a huge amount of intensity, especially when it comes to our emotional realm, especially when it comes to some of the hotter and heavier emotions that, of course, this Aries energy really triggers. Things are still very intense. We still have a lot of information yet to be illuminated. We can kind of expect that over the next week. But even if we weren't in this full moon energy, having the shift from Aries energy to Taurus energy is always a little bit rough. I say that because we're flying high. We're very passionate, all fired up in Aries energy being a fire sign. And then we come back down to earth. We kind of splat down onto the earth in this Taurus energy. It is an earth sign. We become a little bit more low and slow, a little bit more grounded. We're trying to take the ideas, the passions, the desires that it got activated in us under the moon in Aries energy. And now we're trying to see where it is that we have to plant those seeds, what it is we have to build, what it is we have to create, what it is that we have to give birth to in order to actually bring to life some of the ideas and realizations that should have came to us while the moon was in Aries energy. So we do have the moon going void, of course, at 10:02 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We will be locking into Taurus energy at 5:04 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which means that we are spending a good chunk of the waking day with the moon void, of course. And of course, when the moon is void, things are a little bit shaky. They're a little bit uncertain. We're not really, solid or firm with our thoughts, with our emotions. Everything that we thought we were aligned with, everything that we thought we knew that we were certain of now comes up for questioning. And of course, once we lock into that Taurus energy, we will gain a little bit more of a solid footing. Again, being in earth energy, we do need to be a little bit more present in our bodies. That's why things get a little bit heavy and weighted and low and slow. But we do have to kind of get back to where it is that we need to kind of focus in on A, taking care of ourselves, B, kind of taking a little bit of time to take stock of the changes that have been taking place in our lives, see what it is that we're being asked to concentrate our time and energy on as far as creating new foundations, rebuilding, restructuring some of the routines, relationships in our lives. And of course, D, just kind of slowing down long enough to see what it is that our heart and soul are being called to kind of pursue. So we got a lot going on. Now, I also want to throw out there the fact that today we have Mercury re-entering into Libran energy. I'm going to ask that you go ahead and you listen to that astro forecast that I put out for October because I go into a little bit more depth. We have a lot to review. We're going back to August and then some of the events that took place in September. And of course, now what re-entering into the Libran energy actually means for us, especially for this next week. And then we dive into brand new territory. So definitely check out that astro forecast where I do a deep dive into covering all the highs and lows of what Mercury's retrograde, Mercury's adventure through Libran energy, through the retrograde, and now direct re-entering into the Libran energy is going to mean for us. I also want to bring up the fact that, like I mentioned, we're still very much in this full moon energy. If you still haven't downloaded your moon guide, there's still time to do that. Please listen to the astro forecast if you haven't already. And even more than that, we're still very much in the, I'm going to say, adjustment period of Pluto going direct. Of course, that just took place on Saturday. We are still very much in this very active, very intense, very transformative weekend of energies. And so we have a lot going on. The other thing that I want to talk about, I talked about this just very briefly in the Mercury re-entering Libra astro forecast, is the fact that some may think that today is the 10/10 portal. You wouldn't be wrong. Of course, October being the 10th month in the fake calendar that we are kind of deluded into using, and the 10th day would kind of suggests that, yeah, it is the 1010 portal. However, if you've been with me for any amount of time, you would know that I'm not so sold on all of these, numerological portals. To me, a portal is when there's a significant alignment with us, with another star system, with another planet that actually opens up the realm of receiving, different energy codes, different electromagnetic frequencies coming in from the cosmos. Today, we have a planet shifting. We have, huge amounts of energy, but to me, there's no real actual definite portal taking place. That being said, just keep in mind that whatever it is that you choose to believe in is very real to you. You make it real by what it is that you pour your time and energy into. So for those of you out there that actually align with the concept of today being a huge numerological portal, by all means, throw yourself into that. There's a lot of, energy behind belief systems. Just want to kind of throw it out there that technically speaking, October is the 8th month in the actual calendar that we have kind of been, directed away from aligning with. And, if we were to take October as the 8th month, as it should be, and as it was named after, oct, of course, is the term for 8. So, if you throw that in there, it really kind of puts a cluster F into, whether this 1010 portal is actually valid. Regardless, as we know, because of the October energy forecast that I put out at the beginning of this month, October is deeply transformative. We are definitely in a cycle where we are creating brand new landscape for ourselves. And regardless of whether today is considered a portal to you or not, we have a lot of energy coming in, a lot of shifts taking place, and a lot of opportunity to align with the new beginnings, with the new chapters, with the new systems and structures and foundations that need to be built in order for us to align with the new mission, with the new purpose that, of course, we're all kind of being activated to pursue. So with that being said, there are 8 different aspects taking place here today. 6 of them involve the moon. We have the moon still in Aries energy, sextiling, good energy, positive energy, with Mars. Mars, of course, the ruler over this full moon in Aries, this Aries energy. This is, of course, setting us up for a little bit of a powerhouse energy. First of all, we're emotionally charged because, again, the moon rules over our emotions. Mars is currently in Gemini energy in the mental plane, the intellectual battlefield. We are definitely using this explosion point that we just had under the full moon in Aries energy that took place yesterday. We are having a lot of epiphanies. We're having a lot of shifts. We should have been illuminated where it is that we can take some of our anger and frustration, especially of some of the situations that have been divinely scripted that we have no control over. We should be taking that and now flipping it into inspiration and motivation and determination in order to move forward, to push forward, to make something, good out of not so nice circumstances. And so with the moon and Mars kind of interacting in this way, what we can kind of understand is that there's a huge shift, a huge intensity taking place in our emotions. There's also a powerhouse energy taking place in our mental plane, and we are likely being activated, motivated, and inspired in order to take control, take some action to push ourselves forward. Even baby steps count. But because we've kind of been on the fence, debating between the choices and decisions and opportunities and paths and directions that we are contemplating and taking, there should be some kind of significant push to push us into one direction over the other. And with this energy, we are definitely kind of tapping into the warrior spirit that Mars and this Aries energy is all about, which means that we're bossing up and we are kind of becoming a little bit more hell-bent and determined on pushing forward, regardless of the circumstances that definitely we wouldn't have wished for ourselves are creating for us. So what are we supposed to do? We're supposed to lay around and be the victim and cry about it over things that we have no control over? Or are we going to boss up and take control over the aspects that we do have the ability to, have power and control over and do something with it? This is definitely energy that will create that. The moon is going to bump into Neptune, who is retrograde in Pisces energy. Neptune is in its place of power in Pisces energy. And this particular situation is likely going to show us where it is in our outer realm, that situations may be kind of showing us where it is that we have to align with the new vision and align with the new dream. Many of us have gotten rocked, absolutely shook up. Some of the plans that we had for ourselves just have been destroyed for whatever reason. And because of that, we're feeling a little bit disconnected with our higher self, with the universe, with our intuition. But right now, because of the fire energy coming from the moon being in Aries, we are kind of being a little bit aggressive in pushing ourselves to figure out what the new vision looks like, what the new dream is going to be, what is actually different, what is actually the same. There's a lot of confusion. There's a lot of fogginess, a lot of vagueness around Neptune being in Pisces energy. So it does make us hard to kind of get the kind of clear vision that we were hoping for. But at the same time, we can't continue to run and hide. We have to kind of boss up and face our problems head on. That's the only way that we're going to come up with solutions. And we're definitely in the mode and in the mood in order to resolve some of the conflicts that we've been sitting in, just so that we can get out of this funk. Now, Venus, the goddess of love and beauty and worth and pleasure and money, she is in Libran energy in her place of power. Of course, she was a key starring factor under this full moon in Aries that we just had yesterday. She is directly opposing Chiron, the wounded healer, who also had a major part in this full moon energy. Again, listen to the astro forecast if you haven't already, or consult the moon guide if you haven't done so already. It's a pretty big deal. Now these two are in a direct conflict, a direct opposition. So you got Chiron retrograde in Aries energy, the wounded healer, and Venus, the goddess of love and beauty and worth and pleasure, sitting across from the table and really having it out. And what we're going to get from this is a lot of disappointment, really taking a good look at what it is that we're disappointed in, especially when it comes to our relationships, because Chiron illuminated a lot of wounds that we're carrying because of the relationships changing in our lives. And right now, because the full moon is kind of, not at its peak point, it's dissipating at this particular point in time, we're able to sit with a lot of the illuminations and start piecing together, the landscape and how it's changing. And a lot of that is due to the relationship dynamics that are changing as well. And because of this, we're not as, I'm going to say, optimistic or confident about some of our relationship dynamics. We're really taking a hit, so to speak, in our self-worth, in our self-confidence. Our money matters seem to be out of control and very, I'm going to say, frightening, because they're, unstable and not as certain as we would like. And socially speaking, we just, even if we're in situations where, we have to be out in the public, or we have to be in certain social setups to, conversate with other people, we don't want to be there. We don't want to be around people right now, to be honest with you. We are kind of exposed in our weaknesses and our insecurities and our vulnerabilities right now. We're really raw, and we're kind of recognizing our anger, our frustration, our guilt, our resentfulness. There's all kinds of wounds coming up for us right now, especially in consideration of some particular relationships and how those power exchanges, those energy exchanges are changing. Again, the landscape of our lives are changing very quickly, and a lot of this is due to people coming, people going, people not being the people that they thought they were. And just overall, we're a little bit more focused on our wounds, our doubts, our insecurities, our weaknesses, our disappointments, than we are trying to fix things and boss ourselves up right now. So we do have to kind of pay attention to that. And again, we're still in a very, I'm going to say, very vulnerable state with our emotions because of this full moon and because of Pluto going direct. And, we're at the crisis degree of Mercury, being at the very end of this Virgo energy and preparing to re-enter into Libran energy in just a couple of hours. To make matters even more intense, we do have the moon in Aries squaring off with Pluto, the great transformer himself. So a square is a tension point. We're getting into the boxing ring. Emotionally speaking, we're not feeling so hot right now. We're not feeling so good. We're not feeling so stable. Pluto, of course, just went direct on the 8th, on Saturday, just hours before the full moon. And although Pluto now is direct, he's not moving very fast. He's sure as hell not up to his optimal stage and speed and potential. So it's very low and slow. And right now it's kind of like we're just kind of taking stock of all that has transpired, leaving us with a mess to clean up, leaving us with a lot of choices and decisions to make, and leaving us kind of raw and vulnerable, kind of taking a look at the damage and destruction that has taken place in our lives. We need a little bit of time before we're able to kind of take action to rearrange and manipulate and organize and restructure our lives in order to actually kind of feel stable and safe and secure in this new landscape. And so we are getting into the boxing ring emotionally here with the god of the underworld, who is likely going to bring out a lot of the negative aspects of our emotional realm. And of course, we have to sit in our pain and sit in our trauma and sit in our suffering, not to keep us in a state of paralysis, but of course, hopefully to show us the light, to show us where, we can make something good out of a lot of the bad, and where we can turn our pain into power, and where we can turn our darkness into light. But right now we're just kind of making peace with the fact that we're going to acknowledge the lower vibrational emotions. We're going to sit in the funk for just a sec. It's not going to feel good, but it is absolutely necessary for us to feel trapped, for us to feel like our back is against a wall, for us to feel anger and hopelessness and all of the negative energies in order to inspire us, to boss us up, to kind of, I'm not going to say get revenge, but to make something out of a not so nice situation, really kind of boss ourselves up into warrior mode. This is actually the last aspect that the moon in Aries is going to make before going void, of course. So it's, I laugh, not that it's funny, it's just a little bit ironic that we get triggered and activated just before the moon goes void, because like I said, when the moon is void, we're not sure about anything and everything is wacky, and we're not feeling good. We're not feeling safe. We're not feeling stable. We're not feeling secure. We're questioning everything. And what a way to dive into this particular whirlwind of emotions than to battle it out with the god of the underworld right before things get wonky. While the moon is void, we are going to have a little bit of an interaction with Mercury. What I will say is that the last aspect that the moon makes getting into that boxing ring with Pluto is at 10:02 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We go all the way to 4:47 p.m. without anything happening in the cosmos. That's how long we're going to sit in the funk for. That's how long we're going to feel uncertain and unstable and questioning everything for. And at 4:47 p.m., we have the moon kind of bumping into Mercury, who is at the very final degree, a crisis degree, a karmic degree in this Virgo energy, which just happens to be Mercury's place of power in Virgo energy. So we're wrapping things up. There's always a huge amount of pressure in our headspace when Mercury is on the move, especially being at the 29th crisis degree of his place of power in Virgo energy. There's a huge want, need, and desire to fix things, to just repair things, to solve all the problems that we're having. And There's a huge urgency coming up at this particular time to get our shit together. And of course, we're struggling with that because we're in a very wacky energy right now. And the moon being our heart space and Mercury being our head space, we sure as hell are not on the same page. And even more than that, we are being faced with situations in our external realm that is amplifying the disconnect, the amount of distance that our heart and our head actually have in between them, because we are looking around at our landscape, bringing in information from this new landscape that isn't sitting well. We have no clue how we're going to fix some of the problems that have been thrown at us. And emotionally speaking, we want to just kind of lash out and take our anger and frustration out on the world when, logically and practically, Mercury being in Virgo energy is trying to remind us that that ain't going to get us anywhere. It's not going to help anything. And of course, we have this inner debate, this inner conflict taking place within us that just does not feel so good. I want to just throw caution to the wind here that this is also an energy that can put us in a situation to verbal vomit and just kind of project our doubts, our fears, our anger, our insecurities out into the world, and kind of place blame or let people take heat that don't deserve it. And that is definitely going to be a mess that we are going to have to clean up later if you're not able to bite your tongue and kind of use that filter, use your words wisely. So at 5:04 p.m., that's when we lock into Taurus energy. That is when we will feel very heavy, very weighted, very present in our physical bodies. Whether that's good, bad, that's still, remain to be seen. And then the first aspect that the moon in Taurus is going to make, which is a helpful one, thank goodness, is with Saturn, the Lord of Karma. Now, Saturn is retrograde in Aquarian energy, and Saturn kind of brings us down a couple of pegs. He makes us very serious, very somber. We are seeing things a little bit clearly. We are recognizing where we have no choice but to restructure and rebuild our lives, especially where routines and relationships are concerned, where boundaries within those relationships are concerned. We really are kind of being shown right now where it is that karma has had a huge hand in some of the situations that we're currently facing, that we're trying to resolve. And because of this, we have to boss up in new ways. There's new roles and responsibilities for us to step into. We may be dreading this because we feel the weight of the world on our shoulders right now. But at the same time, with the moon in Taurus, we're kind of grounded, and we're a lot more grounded than we've been in quite a while. And we're able to kind of sort out our thoughts and feelings a little bit easier than we have in a while. And Saturn, because this is a good aspect, Saturn isn't coming at us. He's not, trying to beat us down with tough love. He's actually trying to build us up with reassurances that we have what it takes in order to deal with the situations and scenarios that have been thrown our way, and that basically we just have to take a good look at the foundations that have been rocked and where it is that certain elements in our lives do need to be rebuilt, and to just take it one baby step at a time. 7:51 p.m. is when Mercury moves into Libran energy. You can expect to feel a lot of pressure in your head. You can expect to feel a little bit nervous, a little bit jittery. Around this time, we are going to need a little bit of an adjustment time to get used to this Libran energy, but you should be having a lot of epiphanies as you move into your sleep state. I'm going to say that sleeping should reveal a lot of information, reprocessing what the subconscious needs to kind of open up and bring to our attention. As far as reflecting back to the end of August goes, and of course, many of us have had an absolute shit show of a time since then, and this particular energy is going to help us reframe those situations and see things differently, and attempt to make peace with some of the circumstances that we're having a hard time coming to grips with. 8:25, we have our last aspect, which is the moon and Jupiter. Now, here's what I will say about this. First of all, Jupiter is the planet of growth and improvement, blessings, beliefs, abundance. He makes us feel a little bit extra. He turns the volume all the way up on what it is that we're thinking and feeling and experiencing. And he is retrograde right now in Aries energy, preparing to move back into Pisces energy here at the end of October. Listen to October's energy forecast for a little bit more details on that. And in this particular aspect, what I will say is that there's a high probability that a situation will be popping off in our exterior realm that we do not have control over, that is going to have us really, really overwhelmed with emotion, really overwhelmed with thoughts, with wanting to take action, wanting to move forward. And of course, he's in a retrograde, so this isn't about moving forward. This is more about realigning and recalibrating our inner realm and where certain situations are forcing us to grow and forcing us to boss up, to make improvements, and changing our belief system within the universe, within ourselves, and positioning us in a perspective where we want a lot more out of life than what it is that we're currently receiving. Now, sometimes it's good for us to realize that we want more out of life, except for when we're not emotionally stable enough to kind of dabble into those dreams, because what can happen is that we get stuck on realizing what it is that we currently don't have. And of course, that triggers the lack of or scarcity mindset, which makes us really sad because we're living in a state of life right now where we are essentially feeling like we desire a totally different reality than the one that we're living. And of course, if we're not inspired and motivated and determined to do whatever it is that we got to do in order to create the new reality that we actually dream of and desire, then what we're left with is just feeling hella angry and hella sad that we're in this situation. Now, the moon being in Taurus means that we are going low and slow. We're trying to stay as present as possible. We have no real time or energy to look back and reflect and fixate on the things that we can't change. And we're not really too keen on extending ourselves too far into the future to, create a vision and a dream of what it is that we want to move forward to pursue. So instead, what we're kind of left with is trying to make the best and pluck out the silver linings of our current circumstances, our current situation. The moon in Taurus has us very focused on what we need to do in this present moment to take care of ourselves, to provide ourselves with as much safety and security and stability as we can possibly find in this ever-changing landscape. But whatever situation is popping off in our life right now is going to be magnified. It's going to appear a lot bigger of a deal than it actually is. And I say that with hesitancy because many of us are going through some very, very intense and dramatic situations right now, and I don't want to undermine those situations. However, our emotions and our thoughts are just magnified and creating a bigger, I'm going to say, cluster F than there actually is. And we tend to get, like I said, we tend to get overwhelmed, and we tend to, be overly dramatic and overwhelmed and overly emotional and overstate our feelings. And it's just a lot. It's just a lot. So what I will say to you is just try to pace yourself, try to ground, try to stay present, connect with your five senses. That's how we ground, by the way. If you didn't know, you connect to, what you can actually see, what you can actually smell, what you can actually hear, what you can touch, what you can taste. We have to connect to the five senses in order to bring our mind back to this present moment. Where in this present moment, we need to focus on all that is well instead of all that is not well, just to try and provide ourselves with a little bit of safety and security and stability that many of us are lacking in this present moment.